Hi, welcome to the Cake as I Lie cakes. Today we've got a special Halloween special, zombie special, all year round that you can make your zombie hand cake. This is super delicious. It's really easy, really effective. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to start with the shape. So the actual zombie hand is not made of cake. What we're going to use here is some Rice Krispie squares, some chocolate fingers, and some modelling chocolate is what we're using. So I'm starting by taking two Rice Krispie squares. We're going to use three in total for this hand, and I'm flattening them out together. When I flatten them together, they're going to kind of merge together so it becomes like one flat piece of Rice Krispie square. Again, you can make this yourself if you wish. You can do it with marshmallows and Rice Krispies, but for convenience, I like to just use the ones you buy in the shop. Now that I've flattened it down, and it's about the width of my hand, I'm going to cut round the shape of my hand. Well, I don't cut round it because that's a sharp knife, but I keep placing my hand down, you can see, and then seeing where I'm going to cut in and out of the Rice Krispie squares. The bits at the side we're going to use, we use all of these Rice Krispies. So when I lay my hand down, I'm putting it so that the fingers start just into the cake. So the bit of the Rice Krispies, essentially where the knuckles are, that's part of the Rice Krispie part. So I've got the basic shape of the palm of my hand and a little bit of my wrist. I'm using the offcuts here just to bulk up the wrist. It was quite thin that we'd made it and I want to give it more of a 3D look. So the bits that we've cut off, I'm putting at the front and the back. We will use one more Rice Krispie cake later to bulk up the rest of the hand, but that comes after we've put the chocolate fingers in place. So I'm modelling this based on my hand, so I'll know what my zombie hand looks like at the end up. I suggest you just do this based on your own hand proportions. I'm ready to start placing the chocolate fingers now. So the thumb is going quite far down, and again I had my hand on it, and that's roughly where my thumb's going to come up to in terms of length. And the rest I'm just placing them on top of the Rice Krispie square as it's flat. Now I'm going to get this other Rice Krispie square, the third one that I said we were going to use, and I'm going to use these. I've flattened it out. This is what's going to hold our chocolate fingers in place. So this is going to bulk up as well the 3D part of our hand, and this is going to hold the fingers where we want them to be. The good thing about the Rice Krispie marshmallow mix is it's quite malleable. You can press it in together and it's really going to be quite firm, so this hand will stick up straight. So we're going to have it as if it's coming out through a grave, and it holds really firm. Now we want to go on to the modelling chocolate. So I'm not using just a fondant like I normally would for this. I'm using modelling chocolate so that it is that little bit firmer. And once again, the advantage of the modelling chocolate is it's very malleable. So I've laid down the hand. I've not put too much on either side. I've cut through where the thumb goes because I want the back of it to be fully enclosed. This is going to look a bit rough on this side, but like I say, it's malleable. It'll all come together nicely. And I'm very roughly just putting the modelling chocolate round the palm and the back of the hand. I spent a fair bit of time here working with the modelling chocolate, just pressing it down to take away where we've made the joints. Fortunately, we're making a zombie hand, so it won't matter that the flesh is a little bit rough. I'm just putting another bit of modelling chocolate down around the wrist, and again, I'm just using my fingers there to work it in. And then the last part for the back of the hand as we look at it is just a few little rectangle strips that I've cut out that I'm using to cover the fingers. Just need to work that in now. So I'm using this tool. It's got the ball in it. You can just use your fingers. If you work this through with your fingers, that'll go just as well. But for speed, I'm using this tool here, and I'm removing any of the joints, the big distinct joints that you could see, so that it looks like the hand is all one piece of, albeit rotten flesh, it's all one piece of flesh. I spotted there I had a wee bit of the Rice Krispie showing through at the thumb, so I've just covered that over with a bit of chocolate, and you just work it in. So this is the underside of the cake now. It's looking okay. The thumb actually had all filled in. Just need to fill in some of the bits where you can see the chocolate fingers poking through. That's just a little bit more of the modelling chocolate and just work it in. So that's all 5 of the fingers done, and I'm happy with my modelling chocolate. On this side again, I'm just going to work it in so that you can't really see any big distinct joints. So that's my Rice Krispie square and my chocolate fingers all covered up. So that looks like a hand, I would say. Now, to give it a wee bit of the decoration, so this is us looking at the palm of our hand. So you look at the palm of your hand and you just scratch in the lines that you see. So everyone has these lines in the front of their hand. Palm readers will be able to tell you what they all mean, but basically you're doing a line from the thumb across about 3/4 of the way, then just a bit above that, 3/4 of the way the other way, and a couple of lines up and down, and then a few lines at the wrist. So I'm going quite deep in this so that when it's decorated, that really shows up. And then just the folds at the inside of the knuckles so that your fingers can bend. We're scratching them out as well. Don't forget when you're doing this that it's a very three-dimensional object, so the scratches that you're going to put into the thumb are not on the top, it's not the bit facing you, it's a bit that's facing inside the hand, so you have to go quite far in there to get the fold in the correct place. Okay, now I'm just turning it over and we're going to do the same on the back. There's not so much that you need to do on the back, putting a wee line across the wrist and then a couple of lines down from the thumb, because that's what the back of my hand looks like. And then again on this side we also have to do the creases where your knuckles are. The last thing we need to do at this stage before we really start getting into the decorating is to put the fingernails on. So where the fingernails would be, I'm just pressing the modelling chocolate down so as I make an indentation that I'm then going to put the fingernails into. The fingernails, I'm just using the exact same modelling chocolate. You have to make sure it's rolled very, very thin. So it's really small parts, so you have to be a wee bit delicate with it as you press it on. But once you press it on, it's absolutely fine to rip the top of it so that the nail itself looks like it's ripped because it's just had to dig its way out of a grave. So that's the technique for the modelling chocolate. Just press it on and then rip it. Press and rip. Do that for each of the fingers and also the thumb. We're almost ready to start decorating. I'm just putting a wee score down at each of the nail beds here. That's going to help when we do our decorating. And there we have our hand. So you can see it's quite sturdy. Hello, nice to meet you, zombie hand. It's quite firm, so it's going to look as though it's crawling up out of grave. To get the dead flesh that we're looking for, we're going to do it just in 4 coats. The first coat that I'm putting over some of it is just a very light pink wash. That's going to pick up some of the creases that we've put into it. The second colour we're going for is this dark umber colour. See, I've just put a little bit of powder onto the plate there and then I'm going to mix that up with a wee bit of water. That's what's going to really show up our creases. I'm using the dark umber because, well, it's a good dark colour. It's good for contrast against the colour of the modelling chocolate, the ivory colour, but also because, again, this has to have the effect of something that's crawling up through the grave. It's come up through the dirt. So that was the first coat on there. Do the same on the other side, the underside of the hand. To get the dead zombie flesh look, I'm using this sap green powder. I'm putting it on quite thick. Usually I do things in quite a wash, but those bits of powder, instead of wetting the powder like I normally do, what I'm doing is I'm wetting the brush and picking up the powder. So it's it's going on a wee bit thicker than I would, but that's because I want it to have a very dead flesh colour, which to me it's this green. It looks as though it's a bit rotten, and I'm putting that all over everywhere where I haven't put the brown. Really, I'm essentially leaving where the brown is, and I'm putting this green rotten flesh everywhere else. For a final bit of contrast, I've added a little bit of black to some water. Now the thing about the black is quite often it's not actually black. It's never going to look all that black. It's got a real green tinge to it, which is perfect. So I've put that into all the creases and I'm just brushing over it here with a dry brush so as that I can take most of it off. It got a wee bit too dark just in the side there, so I'm taking a brush here that's just wet and I'm lifting some of the colour back off. So if you find you've done it and it's a wee bit too dark in places, if you just get a paint brush, one of your modelling brushes, just with plain water, then you can lift some of the colour back off so it's not too dark. But I really wanted a nice dark contrast there. The same on the back of the hand, fewer places to put it here, but again in the creases and especially around the nails at the top, that gives it a nice rotten look. And there you have your zombie hand made of modelling chocolate that's fashioned round about some Rice Krispie squares and some chocolate fingers, completely edible, and we're now going to place that into our bake. So the bake that I've made for this is a chocolate sponge. I'll put the description below for how I made that. It's a 10 by 8 tin, rectangular tin, just the regular vanilla sponge but with some chocolate in it. And for the icing, I've went for Nutella icing here, so it's a really delicious cake. I love this. And in honour of the zombie hand, I'm using my Frankenstein's Monsters spatula, as you can see. So chocolate sponge covered in, well, I'm using a Nutella ice and I'll show you how to do it, and you can alter it if you're not keen on Nutella. To decorate as well, so this is looking like the open grave. This is a flake. I'm just crumpling up flake because it's easy, and again it's really tasty. So we've got a lovely chocolate sponge, Nutella icing and some flake all over the top of it, and that's to represent a freshly dug grave, a freshly made grave. In order to place the hand, I'm just cutting out a very small rectangle here, slightly smaller than the hand itself is going to be, so that it holds it in place. And then you just place your hand in, and there you have it. Your zombie hand cake, where your zombie is trying to get out of his grave with the hand sticking up through the earth. The last bit of decoration that we're going to do is to take the hand, and now that it's in place, just to crumple a bit of flake over the top of it so that it looks like the hand has come up through the earth. It would obviously pick up bits of earth on the way through, so I'm just crumpling a wee bit of flake over the top and through the fingernails. And there we have our cake. I hope you enjoy it. It is one of my favourites, both to make and actually to eat.